joins us this morning to take a look at the CPI, Consumer Price Index, inflation data, and market reaction to. Larry, welcome. I guess for those who are looking for inflation, they have to, well, continue to search elsewhere. We're not seeing any at this point. I'm noticing here the core CPI below expectations, below prior 0.1. It came in at 0.0. The year over year came in at 1.4%. CPI month over month at 0.3, in line with expectations, but still below last month, 0.4. I mean, fairly muted to say the least.
Yeah, definitely muted. And I think this day is a pivotal one in the sense that it's going to explain the journey or help us unravel the journey to inflation and whether that actually exists. I mean, the fact of the matter is, it's one number, and I don't think the market was just pining all its hopes on this one number, but it does help the trajectory with regards to treasury yields, the curve, the dollar, and really everything else in the global markets.
Larry, talk to me, because we were just talking about corn on the rise recently into new highs, multi-year highs. We've got asset prices in general, whether you're talking crude, indices, copper. We're going to take a look at in a minute the chart. I mean, certainly we're seeing asset prices inflate. It's just not necessarily trickling down, it looks like.
Yeah, it's like that consumer-driven inflation, that mystery that everyone, the Fed especially, is trying to unravel, to find out. Because you're right, we're seeing large pockets of inflation, but they're not, being born from consumer-driven inflation. I think that's why, the BLS report, in a way, set the stage for CPI, because wages aren't catching up to where they should be. There's still a lot of people out of the job market, and the savings rate is enormous. So you're just not seeing that consumer-driven inflation, and thus the CPI number is muted.
Larry, in your notes, you mentioned how the FOMC has demonstrated a track record of fighting inflation. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself here, but what about deflation?
Yeah, no, I think it's like the history book hasn't been written on it. And and I think so far so good, but let's be serious. I mean, the Fed is anchoring the front end of the curve because they're reducing cash balances, and you see that with the repo rate. The short end of the curve yields have gone down so much. The long end of the curve is being held up by a balloon with reflationary hopes, et cetera. And so it's all dollar negative, and the fact is, it's telling that the Fed is just trying so hard to stave off that deflation, and so far so good.
You mentioned this is dollar negative. What are you seeing here in terms of the greenback? For the most part, it's been somewhat limited in terms of real participation one way or the other, with rates on the rise, the yield curve steepening. We did see it come off the lows a little bit, but it does seem to be consolidating a little bit. And you can see why. I mean, with very muted consumer price index, the CPI coming in as expected, and, well, for the most part, flat to, well, even lower in some cases as far as prior levels. I mean, you can see why the dollar's been mostly sideways here.
Yeah, it has been. In the last week, it's been down, but still up a little bit, like 0.5%, the dollar index year to date. Everything that's being promoted is basically short-term or intermediate-term dollar negative, but it doesn't take into account the fear factor people have of the Fed perhaps doing a U-turn, which I don't think is going to happen at all at this point. The difference, a chasm right now that exists from the fiscal stimulus, and I think a lot of the dollars motivation is basically backed by what people think is going to happen with fiscal stimulus, and that's not getting passed right now, so that's worrisome. Then also you have to think of the global markets and interest rate differentials. So it's not just the United States that is promoting or soon to promote some type of stimulus. Other countries are as well. So the dollar might be able to continue to hold its own, even on the short term. And I definitely still know and realize that I'm in the minority on that.